Hello and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So I'd like to go over a guide of which races should you be using for which roles, and whether or not in the end of the day are these different premium races actually pay to win or not. You can see currently in the Zen market, when we go to this services tab, that you can purchase 4 of the different premium races for just 500 Zen. This is the same price as just a race reroll token, and with purchasing one of these premium races, you will also obtain a race reroll token. Now, these 4 different premium races are your Dragonborn, your Gith, your Moon Elf, and your Renegade Drow. Now, whether or not they're actually worth the cost, let's go and check it out. So we create a new character, and you'll first up choose which race that you want to be using. So the ones that we are now able to unlock for just 500 Zen is this Dragonborn, which will give you the ability of 5% more healing from all spells and abilities, and also 3% critical strike and 3% power. Then we have the Gith, which will grant you Gith endurance, allowing you to regenerate your stamina 5% faster and also give you 5% more combat advantage. Then there is this Moon Elf, where you'll basically just gain 3% more action point gain and also stamina gain. And then you have your Moon Elf Resilience, giving you 10% resistance to control effects. And then finally, we have our Menzoberranzan Renegade, basically a copy of the Drow, but a little bit different by having its Fairy Fire reduce the target's defense by only 3%, however also reducing their outgoing damage by 3% as well, and 5% bonus deflect severity. Now, we do have a bunch of just those free-to-play races, but how do they compare to those premium races? We have a good few premium races, including this Metallic Ancestry Dragonborn and the Aasimar, which both you cannot go and purchase very easily. You were able to obtain a token which costs you 1,500 Zen to get the Metallic Ancestry Dragonborn, which is a little bit better than your Dragonborn, since instead of giving you 5% incoming healing, it will now only give you 3% incoming healing, but it will also give you a total of 3% more hit points, making the metallic one the better of the 2 Dragonborns. So if you insist on looking like a Dragonborn, I wouldn't spend the 500 Zen for the normal one. You might want to save up a bit more and just wait for the metallic one. So right there, you've kind of already got your pay to win, but that's just between premium races. How do the other races look compared to these? Well, initially you have a human, and it does seem pretty powerful. You can see it will give you 1% to all of your offense and defensive statistics. When you look on your character, you will have 5 offense stats and 5 defensive stats, meaning you're gaining a total of 10% from this versatile defense. That gives it the biggest boost of any race to your pure statistics. Of course, other races will have benefits like extra movement speed, or extra 2% hit points to all party members, or your 20% resistance to slow movements. Those are all kind of utility benefits. And the human is just going all out on giving extra stats. However, many roles within Neverwinter, you have your tank and your healer and your DPS. Many of them don't actually benefit from having either offense and defensive. Tanks just want defensive, healers just want a few offensive, and DPS just want offensive. Of course, having both offense and defense means on a DPS you get a bit more survivability, and on a tank you get a bit more outgoing damage through those offense stats. As a healer, you'll just gain a bit more survivability. In my opinion, the human is for gaining that balance between offensive and survivability. It's the character you would use when you're running challenging content. However, of course, there can be a variance based on which class. Many different classes will have forte, and they'll have a different benefit to their forte, whether it's combat advantage, accuracy, or your critical strike. And thus you may choose a race that would give you a benefit to a different stat. Let's say your class is lacking on critical strike. You might want to choose the Wood Elf for that extra 5%, or the Gith for the extra 5% combat advantage, or the Half Orc for for that extra critical severity. So when we look at these different races, can we tell if they're pay to win or not? Well, if you're just trying to obtain the most offensive stats possible, you can see the Dragonborn will give a total of 3% crit strike plus 3% power, which equals 6% total offensive stats. And that is higher than any race can give you. You can see a human, only 5% offense. Half-orc, only 5%. Wood elf, only 5%. Even the Gith, which is premium race, will only give 5%. And they're all of them down the line like that. And for your tanks, it's the same. However, there is no premium race that's going to give an excess amount of defensive stats like this Dragonborn does. You can see the Metallic Ancestry Dragonborn will only give you 3% more maximum hit points. However, the incoming healing is pretty nice, especially for a tank who needs to receive a lot of heals. But we know now that stacking hit points isn't really the way to go anymore. So, in my opinion, you're better off stacking something like Deflect Severity, or you would look at just defense from your dwarf here. Aasimar is a very good race for your healers, since it's the only race that will give you outgoing healing. So overall, races are indeed slightly pay to win. You can look at them giving you about 1% or 2% extra stats in offensive compared to their free-to-play counterparts. But still, the human excels the most at giving you the maximum amount of stats possible. 10% total there. So in my opinion, the best race to be using for a damage dealing character, a DPS, would either be your Dragonborn for that 6% offensive stats, or your Metallic Ancestry Dragonborn. However, there is a thing right now where it's pretty easy for DPS to stack power, and thus it's not as important. And thus, it makes it very viable to just run any of the other races. A Tiefling is the only race which is going to give you the benefit of giving you that 5% additional damage to targets. This is pure bonus damage. However, you will only gain the benefit when they're below half their hit points. So to conclude, the best race for a DPS is one that will give you offensive stats. Ideally 6% from the Dragonborn, or just 5% from any of these other ones. For a tank, you ideally want one that will give 5% to your defensive stats. This will be either the Dwarf, or you have your Halfling, or you have your Drow, or the Renegade Drow. There's very little difference between the free-to-play Drow or the Menzoberranzan Renegade. As for a healer, the Aasimar is definitely the best there, just giving you the extra outgoing healing by 2% along with your power. However, outgoing healing is at this stage right now where we have a lot more gear that gives the outgoing healing, and thus it's not as important. The major benefit of an Aasimar is increasing your party's survivability by increasing their maximum hit points, meaning they'll be able to take bigger hits with a less likelihood of them just dying. But again, for a healer, you could very well go with a Dragonborn because we benefit from crit and we benefit from power. What you want to watch out for is don't go and choose like the Gith, since healers will not benefit anything from combat advantage. Same goes with the Tiefling. We won't gain any benefit from extra damage, so just keep that in mind. So in the end, in my opinion, it's not really worth it at all, even just to spend 500 Zen for one of these race packs. If you need a reroll token, a race reroll token, by all means pick up one of these premium races that you don't currently obtain, since they're exactly the same cost. Keep in mind to use those invocation bags, those celestial bags of refining. You can obtain these coupons, and you'll be able to obtain a coupon that will at least give you a 20% off these, and that will reduce the price down to just 400 Zen. Another thing is they've added in a new bag and actually removed the older bags. You can see with a coupon for the bag, which is 25%, This bag of holding, which is mythic, has 60 slots. That's insane, by the way. The bags previously, the legendary ones, only had 42 slots, and it will set you back 500 Zen at its base cost, but with a 25% off coupon, you can get that down to 375 Zen. You can see those improved bag of holdings there will give you those 42 slots, which would give you those 3 rows on my current inventory setup. So to conclude, yes indeed, premium races are slightly pay to win. Some of them are not at all. So aside from the Dragonborn, you would look at the other premium races just to be cosmetic only. The Dragonborn, many people don't really want their characters to look like that. Whether or not these actual premium race tokens are going to stick around or not, I don't think they're going to remove them, since they would generally add them to the events tab if they did. You can very well go and purchase them from other players on the auction house. If we look in Miscellaneous, they'll set you back nearly 6 times the amount of Azure Diamonds as the equivalent of Zan. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys, at least some of you newer players to this game, whether or not to pick up a premium race. The end conclusion is they're not really any better than the free-to-play races, so don't really worry about it. If you're really indecisive as to which race to choose, you really can't go wrong with just picking a human. Just be sure to slot that ability score into one you need. One I do recommend that's generally useful for all classes is Charisma, and otherwise if you're playing a tank, you can also slot it in Constitution. So I'd like to give a very special thank you to all of my channel members for helping me keep my channel going. If I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.